Hello guys, my name is Gavin, and this will be part 3 in the tutorial series How to Create an FPS Game in Blender. As you can see, for video 3, we will be creating a gun, and we'll be making a simple recoil for the gun or animation for the gun as well. This will kind of be like that one tutorial I made where it's pretty much, the empty object determines whether or not the animation is hip-fire mode or aim down sights, and the animation of the gun will just pretty much be the recoil itself. Alright. And I am just going to get started. So to start off, what we're going to do is go back into your Blender file, and let's go back into the HUD scene like this. What we are now going to do is actually, I'm going to double click everything, double click the A button until everything is selected, and do R, X, and 90. So, and this is pretty much because I forgot to do this in the last video, we want to actually animate our gun this way to avoid confusion. Alright? So what we're going to do is I'm going to right click on this camera and hit Object, Snap, and then Cursor to Selected. Let's now do spacebar and then add a cube like this. Add a cube. Scale this cube down by hitting S. And what we're going to do is I'm going to hit S and Y to scale it out on the Y axis. And let's go into edit mode like this. So go from object mode to edit mode. And let's do W and subdivide, W subdivide, W subdivide, and W subdivide. Click these three faces right here. Hit the A button. Actually, wait. I don't really like how it's kind of just that weird wireframe view. Alright, do one more subdivide, sorry, like this. I'm just going to right click on this face and right click on this face. And I'm going to hit E and extrude them like this. So that's kind of a big gap, but that'll work. What we're now going to do is grab a couple of these bottom faces, like this, by shift and by hitting the shift key and right clicking on them. E and extrude it down. Alright, this is kind of a terrible looking gun, but it'll work. You can make it smaller by hitting the U key, or by hitting the S key. I'm going to drag it like this. Okay. What we're now going to do is I'm going to go back into edit mode and select these bottom 4 faces again and do mesh, snap, and then cursor to selected. Go back into object mode and do object, transform, origin to 3D cursor. So if we play it from the side, we can see it's going to recoil like this. Okay. What we are now going to do is do spacebar and then add an empty object. Empty like this. And let's make this a cube object. Hit the S key to scale the empty object down. And what we're going to do is I'm going to drag it just towards the top of our gun like this. So you can see it's going to look like that. I'm now going to hold the shift key and right click on the camera with our empty already selected and do Control and P and copy it. Next what we're going to do is right click on the gun and then shift and right click on the empty. Do Control and P and parent it to that. So the gun is parented to the empty, which is in turn parented to the cube. So if we move around the camera, all 3 should move. Hit 0 to go into our camera view. And what we're going to do is go from game logic to animation. I'm going to go into the HUD scene really quick. Hit 0 to go into our camera view like this. And what we're going to do is I'm going to right click on the empty object. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to drag this up down here, this panel. Set the start animation keyframe to 0 and set the end animation keyframe to 6. And set this one to 6 as well. So the current keyframe is on 6 and the start one is 0. What we're going to do is have our let's right click on our empty really quick. And let's do I and then lock the location. Then we're going to go to frame 0. I'm going to drag the empty object down to the side and drag this down like this. And do I and then lock location. So if we hit play, we can see it's going to go up like this, and this is going to be the animation for our aiming down sights. What we are now going to do is I'm going to right click on the gun really quick and hit 3 to go into our side view. Next, what we're going to do is on frame 0, we're going to do I and then lock location. On frame 2, we're going to do I and then lock location. And then on frame 1, what we're going to do is drag the gun back just a little bit and do I and then lock location. So if we hit 0, we can kind of see it's doing a weird little recoil animation, even if it's not much. I'm actually going to set the end keyframe to 3, or actually 2. We can see it's kind of doing that little machine gun animation like this. Alright, I'm going to set the end keyframe back to 6, like that. And I'm going to hit 0 to go back into our camera view. What we are going to do is go from animation to game logic, and we're back now in the HUD scene like this. Next, I'm going to right click on the empty object, like so. I'm going to add an always sensor like this, and click those first 3 dots. Next, let's add a mouse sensor. This mouse sensor will be click, and let's change it to the right button, like this. Next, what we're going to do is add a Python controller like this, and connect it like this. This is all on our empty object. I'm now going to add a game property, and this game property will be called keyframe. Okay. What we are now going to do is add an action actuator on our empty object, and we'll change it from play to property, and we're going to put the empty action in right here and put the property as keyframe. Next, let's connect the always sensor right here, this first one, to our action actuator like this. So it should look like this. This is the setup. And what we're now going to do is I'm going to drag this down, drag this out, and let's do templates Python, and then game logic simple. Now I'm going to rename, and I'm going to delete the portion that I have highlighted right here. And I'm going to rename this script as, let's say, empty action.py. I'm going to add this right here. So empty action. That's spelled wrong, so I'm just going to change it. Action. Like that. Okay, that'll work. And what we're now going to do is we're going to use this click sensor, this right button, as our pretty much our aiming down sights. So let's do click is going to equal const.sensors. Click. Let's have if click.positive. And then if our own keyframe is less than 6, or essentially if our weapon is not aimed. So if own keyframe is less than 6, own keyframe is going to plus equal 1. And if we're not holding down the left or the right mouse button, what we're going to do is have if on keyframe is still aimed at the time we're not holding down our mouse button. Own keyframe is going to minus equal 1. And if we hit P now, we can see every time I hold the right mouse button, it's going to zoom in, and then it's going to zoom out. So P, right click, not right clicked. All right. What we now want to do is actually have it so that our weapon will fire. So I'm actually going to rename this gun as, let's say, I'm going to rename this as just, let's say, gun, like this. And what we're going to do is let's right click back on our ammo text object right here. And what we're going to do is shift and right click on the gun. And on our gun, let's add an action actuator. Let's change it from play to loop stop. And let's put from frame 0 to 2, because remember that was the machine gun animation. Let's put the cube action right here, and I'll rename the actuator as fire. Let's now connect it to the Python sensor that is connected to our ammo text right here. And on our ammo display variable, let's put a mouse sensor, and let's put click. Or actually, I'll call this left click. Left click and minimize this. Okay. What we are now going to do is connect this left click variable, or this sensor, to our Python controller connected to our ammo display. Let's now go back into our ammo display script. So go back into ammo display, or our ammo script right here, and let's define the fire actuator on our gun and the left click actuator on our ammo icon. So left click is going to equal const.sensors left click. What we are going to do now is have if left click.positive and own ammo is greater than 0. What we are going to do is have own ammo is going to minus equal 1, We're gonna do we're actually gonna define that fire actuator really quick. So fire is gonna equal const actuators fire, and what we're going to do is do const activates fire. And if one of those requirements is not being met, we're just gonna deactivate the fire. So we're gonna stop playing the machine gun animation. So if we hit play now, whoops, I think there's an error right now. The window and then toggle system console. Nope, there's not. Let me check something really quick. Left click, always sensor. Left click is going to equal content sensors click. I'm not holding anything though. That's weird. Oh, console deactivates. Okay, that's my bad. We're supposed to deactivate it if we're not pressing the left mouse button. Gosh. Dang you, caps lock. Activates. Okay. That makes more sense. So, if we hit P and I hold down the machine gun, it's going to do this. And you can see this is how it's going to work. So here's our machine gun like this. Alright guys, that's the simple animation process for our gun. I will now leave a link for part 4 in the tutorial on the right hand side. And that will be all I'm doing for this video. I'll now proceed to part 4.